So I unlocked Grief Goat, 150 wins in Grief mode, solo queue, and let me tell you, this was the most miserable, toxic and almost most satisfying grind I've ever done in Zombies. In this video, I'm gonna tell you how and why I did it, the loadouts I used, some interesting strategies, what will ruin your game and what it really takes to hit 115 wins. If you decide to go for this challenge right now, I've got bad news for you as the game mode is dying. It's natural, the round-based maps are what people stick around for, not a competitive sub-mode without a leaderboard. Yeah, that's still not a thing. That means Grief's player base is tiny, and I mean tiny. I queued so many matches against the same players over and over again. Some were free wins, some were literal nightmares. And once you start recognizing people, it changes how you play. You learn who is coordinated, who is a solo grinder like you, and who is about to make your life hell. Now here's something you only learn after dozens of matches. You can tell early on if a game is winnable. If the other team is too coordinated, winning every zone, sabotaging every revive, you are just wasting your time and should just find another lobby. But when it's balanced, when you got one strong enemy player to go toe to toe with, that's where the fun is. Sometimes it felt like a straight up 1v1 duel. Other times I was the last man alive against the whole enemy squad, still finding ways to sabotage them until they fell apart. And when you pull it off, that's when Grief feels incredible. So why did I put myself through this? The last week of July featured the Master of Grief Leaderboard event. And me being me, I went all in. I'm competitive enough that I wanted to see my name at the top. When Grief released, I played the game, got absolutely destroyed and decided this is just bad. I absolutely despised it. But Treyarch also put out many balancing patches, and when I forced myself into matches for the event, I started enjoying it. Plus I won almost every single match, and after like 10 wins somehow I came to the conclusion that 100 more is nothing. And oh boy, I was wrong. But also there's the thing, Grief can be tedious, toxic, unfair, but it's also unpredictable and really satisfying when you come out on top. Some matches last under only 5 minutes if the other team collapses, others drag on for almost an hour if even one savvy player carries the match. And that's the core of this mode, outlasting the other team. Doesn't matter how dirty it gets, just survive longer. And with that, let's talk about sabotaging the enemy team. There are two main ways to do it. The first is straight up toxic, blocking revives. If you melee an enemy while they are reviving, it cancels the animation. Out of fair play, I usually let teams revive before round 10, but after that, all bets were off. I went all in to end the game as fast as I could. And if you really want to be more efficient, shock charges are god tier in Grief. They don't just cancel revives, they also block box hits and shut down pretty much any interaction. The second method is weaponizing zombies. Once you are set up, you don't always want to clear the horde. Instead, drag a train of zombies towards the enemy, hit them a few times with a melee to slow them down and let the horde finish the job. This works especially well on Shattered Veil with the toxic exploding zombies. That map almost guaranteed me quick wins. Now there's the difference between using a melee strategy like I just showed you and just being a mindless melee spammer. Whenever someone did that to me, they just spammed me and it was annoying, I laser focused on them until I brought them down. So here's my advice. Sabotage smart, don't just be straight up annoying cause it's going to backfire. And now let's talk about loadouts, because you can't brute force 115 wins without running meta. I rotated between two builds, melee only and shotgun. But before we jump into the builds, I have to mention 3 perks I always used and you should do too. Juggernaut, which is an obvious choice with hardened plate and reactive armor augments. Quick revive with dying bish and swift recovery, and PhD flopper. Let me emphasize this, PhD is the clutch perk in Grief, especially with PhD slider and tribologist. Between the slide boost and infinite slide glitch, it's borderline broken. You can escape literally any situation with it. The melee build saves you from headaches like weapon carousel since it doesn't affect melee weapons. The best choice here is the Kali sticks, fast, strong, reliable. I always upgraded them to blue rarity, packed them once or twice and they carried me through entire matches. Melee macchiato with vampiric extraction and stick and move is a must for this build. With those, I could heal just by killing zombies and backpedal out of any sticky situation with extra movement speed. Combine it with Ether Shroud, especially using the group Shroud augment to help your team as well, and you can easily escape anything. The shotgun build was all about the Maelstrom. Here, double tap is very important besides the fundamental perks I mentioned earlier. With these augments, the gun becomes broken. You shred zombies and you can carry your own team instead of only relying on Sabotage. Both builds work well on any map, but I prefer the shotgun build. Also, I want to mention Healing Aura is a very nice field upgrade if you want to be a support for the team. And if you want to be rather extra annoying, run Energy Mine with Turret. It will target enemy players, slowing them down. Now let's talk about Gobblegums. I didn't use them. Most of the time, even when the enemy team did, we still beat them unless it was a very coordinated team. That said, if you really want a safety net, a tactical insta-kill is the one I would recommend. It can save you from almost every punishment you get. But again, Gobblegums are not mandatory here. Your loadout and your strategy to make the enemy team's life harder matters way more. Now let's talk about the griefs themselves, the punishments you get for losing a zone. Since this is an objective based mode, they can make or break your run. So here's how I would rank them from easiest to deal with all the way to the ones that can straight up cost you a match. At the very bottom are weapon nerf and ammo drain. Honestly, these are almost no threat at all. If you get them, just focus on surviving and pulling zombies towards the enemy team to make their lives harder. Between the two, ammo drain is actually better because you can always pull out your stick and use PhD's slide boost to slip out of danger. Weapon nerf on the other hand is worse because it cuts all your outgoing damage, including PhD slides and melee swings. In the middle, I would put Zombie Ambush. How bad this one is really depends on the map. On most maps, extra elites like Abominations or Elder Disciples aren't a big deal. But on Reckoning, getting one or two Uber Clauses dropped on you can absolutely ruin your run, especially because of their ranged attacks. Second worst I would say is Frozen. On lower runs it's not much of a problem, but closer to run 20 it can easily end your game. And if the other team has a guy abusing PhD Flopper, which basically lets them survive anything, Frozen is the punishment that can actually bring them down. I won matches because the enemy's PhD crutch failed the moment they got frozen. Of course the same applies to me. Losing movement speed means losing freedom, and while it's manageable with a strong weapon early on, later runs make it one of the most brutal griefs. And finally, the absolute worst is Weapon Carousel. This one forces you to lose your weapon, cycling through random guns for a full minute before looking with whatever it lands on. If you are running melee only, it's not a big deal since melee weapons aren't affected, but for bullet weapons it's devastating. There's a way to counter it though. If you have a secondary weapon, buy a new gun before the carousel actually starts, drop your weapon on the ground, then just survive with whatever it gives you until the timer ends. When it's over, you can pick up your real weapon and you just basically tricked Weapon Carousel. But what happens when the enemy gets Weapon Carousel? Well, that's the perfect time to strike. With their loadout ruined, you can just bonk them with melee and watch them crumble in a big horde of zombies. So let's talk about something I mentioned earlier. Grief has no leaderboard in the menu, which means you have no option to track your wins in game. 115 wins sounds reasonable, but if you're not counting your wins yourself, it feels endless. I made that mistake. I wasn't tracking early. I'd play match after match thinking this has to be the last one, right? Only to realize I was nowhere near done. So count your wins seriously and prepare yourself mentally because you're going to lose. Sometimes you're going to lose unfairly. And I felt like it's never going to end, but after a month of playing Grief with a little time I had, I finally seen Grief God pop up after a crazy match. Let's be real for a second. The calling card doesn't look great at all, and it's not even animated. But it's the proof that I put myself through one of the hardest, most miserable grinds in Zombies history and came out on top. So you may be thinking, should I do it? Well, I think if you're crazy enough to chase this challenge, I hope my story helps, and yeah, absolutely go for it. But for more casual players or players who just doesn't like Grief or players who don't care about like getting every calling card, they are not completionists, this challenge absolutely not worth the grind. And I only did it because I'm a completionist myself. Thank you all so much for watching all the video if you are still here, and hope you leave a like and subscribe if you find this entertaining. Let me know in the comments what you think about Grief and if you are going for this calling card or you already have it, but I think that was pretty much it for this video. Hope I will see you in the next one.